We were talking a little bit about the president and your concern that there's been a lot of divide, not just over the Iran situation, but, you know, more pointedly back here at home, Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and the sort of discord that that's created within the system, and concerns, you know, about what it all means for the overall economy. How do you see this playing out?
Well, in terms of the economy, the uncertainty with all those thousands of rules coming out and not knowing what your labor is going to cost. We've seen what's happened in the individual market. It's also hitting smaller businesses. Bigger businesses will be hit at the end of the year. So everyone's kind of throwing up their hands and wondering where do we go from here. So that's hurt job creation. And the system itself, the idea in this high-tech age that we would have limited choices offered by the government, even if private companies ostensibly offer them, they have to get permission from the government as to what you offer, is preposterous.
Do you see it as unconstitutional?
I think certainly what they call the IPAB board, the Independent Payment Advisory Board, which is what they used to call the death panel, that's going to become a huge issue. I think it's going to be going to the courts, the lack of accountability. I think, as George Will said, it's the most unconstitutional act ever passed. I think it's going to be declared unconstitutional.
It's certainly been a challenge for this administration, just the rollout of the program, and a lot of people have criticized it for being rolled out too soon. A lot of the technical glitches just hadn't been dealt with. So it's been a real challenge, I think, for the administration to deal with some of those concerns. In fact, it's showing up in some of the polling data, so I'll share some of this with you. Bloomberg recently reported that the president's overall favorability has declined pretty significantly from previous stats. Now 47% of the country rating him favorable versus 40% unfavorable. 40% unfavorable. Do you think that that's stemming from the Affordable Care Act and all the concerns about how that was rolled out?
Yeah, and the fears that it's aroused. I mean, well, I think the administration underestimated. Of all the issues out there, we've discussed Iran and taxes, we're going to be discussing all that kind of thing. Healthcare is the most personal thing possible. It affects you, your kids, your grandkids, your parents. And so when you think there are problems on that, or you don't know what they're going to be doing to you, that arouses intense anger and anxiety. And they're feeling the emotional impact on it. It's not just the numbers in polls. There are literally several million people who are going to be very active next year in a way we haven't seen since 2010, involved in the primaries and in the general election. This is a political time bomb, and I think the White House knows it and doesn't quite know what to do about it.
Well, another one of the questions is how things are going in terms of the economy. Are they actually going in the right direction? 68% said the wrong direction. I mean, 68% of Americans saying we're going in the wrong direction?
Well,
and yet the stock market's at new highs every day.
Well, and I think there's a bit of a disconnect there, even in real terms, even when you make the case that it's gone nowhere for 15 years. I think the market's gotten a little bit ahead of itself. Now, that doesn't mean you should go out and sell. Market timing, I think, is a sucker's game. But it's, as they say, richly priced, fully priced. And so in terms of the Federal Reserve, how in the world do they get out of the QE? They don't know. And we got a little taste in May when the outgoing Chairman Bernanke said, well, we might do a little tapering. People threw up their hands.
But was that because of the shutdown? I mean, people did.
No. It's because they underestimated what the market reaction would be. And since they didn't have a plan B, they sort of went back to the drawing boards and said, Janet, this is your ball. And one of the perverse things that's happened with the QE is that by mispricing credit or suppressing normal pricing in credit, it's hurt, as economists like David Malpass and Taylor and others have pointed out. It suppressed credit flows to small businesses and new businesses, the two sweet spots for job creation. In other words, the more the Fed does QE, the worse the economy is.
Perhaps the law of unintended consequences.
And one of the biggest ever.
You've got no threat of higher interest rates in the future. Why do you need to go out and spend money or invest today? You can always wait till tomorrow or next year.
Uncertainty's the killer.
So as we look ahead again to 2014, there's a lot of big changes in the media industry. You run a big media company as the CEO of Forbes Media, and there's talk that your company may be up for sale, that you've hired Deutsche Bank to represent the company in a sale. Why do that now?
Well, we've done groundbreaking things on the web in the last 3 years that I don't think any other print or traditional media company has done, which is why our web traffic, depending on how you measure it, has tripled in the last 4 or 5 years. We're now over 50 million unique visitors a month. Our way we did our content creation system profoundly changed. The way we do our marketing profoundly changed. That got the attention of people in the media industry who are grappling with the same pressures that we're grappling with, and they said, we want to know more. So we're gratified by the interest. We'll see how it goes. But wherever we go or whatever we do, we're going to continue this groundbreaking work because it's a situation, do or die. The situation is, traditional media is shrinking. The old ways don't work anymore. However, we're in a golden age of communication.
Right.
Content creation is done by everybody. And people who worry about misinformation going out there, if people read you and you put out something that somebody doesn't think is right, you hear about it right away. So you have this huge interaction, social media, in a way that you haven't had before. It's sort of, content creation.
Digital really transforming.
Yeah, in the early 50s.
And mobility, of course. I mean, people now reading everything on their mobile devices.
That's huge growth.
So
most of our traffic growth is with mobile.
You've seen all this growth. You've been successful in the digital space. Test the waters, see what's out there. But you're committed. Would you be committed to just continuing the business and continuing to expand that digital platform?
Oh, it's going to expand. And if we end up not doing it, somebody else will. And but in terms of content creation, it's sort of almost on steroids, the way what happened in the early 50s when TV was in its early days and Hollywood thought TV was a threat. Procter & Gamble, that's how we got soap operas, wanted programming in which they could advertise their soaps. And then Hollywood eventually took it over in terms of content creation. But everyone's doing it now. You have companies doing it. You have...
So who succeeds, Steve?
Those who recognize the new era of interactive communications, and content creation involves everyone now, and the key thing about a brand name is, one, you have a sense of purpose. We are a capitalist tool. We are entrepreneurial, believe in entrepreneurial capitalism, but do so in a way where we involve people that wouldn't have been possible before. We now have over 1,200 contracted contributors. In the old days of print, we'd do 1,400 articles a year. We still do the print side, but on the web we're doing over 120,000.
Everybody's suddenly now having a voice in this new digital landscape.